Explore the life story of one of the most esteemed figures of the 20th century. Delve into the narrative of Nelson Mandela, a prominent individual who endured immense suffering in an unjust society yet remained unbroken. Instead of succumbing to adversity, Mandela persisted in his pursuit of justice, overcoming decades of hardship to achieve his goals. These insights unravel the events that shaped Mandela's character, offering a deeper understanding of the factors that contributed to his strength and unwavering conviction. Discover the circumstances that compelled Mandela to resort to violence in the face of state brutality, explore the complexities of his relationships with both supporters and adversaries, and learn how Mandela garnered support from unexpected quarters, including his prison guards, in defiance of the government. Nelson Mandela's deep commitment to social justice can be traced back to his childhood in rural South Africa. Born in 1918 in Mvezo, a small village in the South African countryside, Mandela belonged to the Xhosa tribe, a proud ethnic group known for its emphasis on law, courtesy, and education. At birth, he was given the name Rolihlahla, meaning troublemaker, in the Xhosa language. Mandela's father, Gadla Henry Mpakanyiswa, held the position of chief in the tribe. However, the influence of the British colonial powers had diminished the political significance of tribal chiefs, and the British government could remove any chief challenging their authority. Mandela's father, known for his defiance, had his status as chief revoked by the British. After his father's death, Mandela's guardian became Jongintaba, another regent of the tribe. This choice had a profound impact on Mandela's life. During his childhood, Mandela attended tribal meetings at the regent's court, where he became aware of the struggles facing his people. Chief Joyi, an influential figure in these gatherings, passionately opposed white supremacy. Chief Joyi's teachings portrayed a history where peace among tribes was disrupted by the arrival of white Europeans, who, driven by greed, seized land that should have been shared, causing disunity among the tribes. While Mandela later discovered that Chief Joyi's historical accounts were not always accurate, these lessons played a pivotal role in shaping Mandela's perspective. They served as a catalyst, opening his eyes to the harsh realities of social injustice and planting the seeds of his lifelong commitment to fighting against oppression. Mandela's early years as a student were marked by a passion for physical activities like stick fighting, alongside his introverted nature. As the first person in his family to attend school, Mandela's journey into education began at a British-oriented village school. However, the curriculum focused solely on British history, culture, and institutions, neglecting African culture. Mandela sought knowledge about his own people's history from the elders in the regent's court. During his time in school, it was customary for Africans to adopt an anglicized name in addition to their original one. Mandela's teacher, Miss Mdegane, chose the name Nelson for him, and while he never learned the reason behind her choice, he suspected a connection to the British sea captain Lord Nelson. Known for his diligent studies, Mandela completed his junior certificate at Healdtown College in an impressive 2 years instead of the standard 3. In 1937, he enrolled at Fort Hare College, where he studied English, anthropology, politics, native administration, and law. It was at Fort Hare that Mandela first displayed his inclination to challenge authority. Participating in discussions about the lack of freshman representation in the House Committee, he and fellow students decided to elect their own committee to better represent their interests. Successfully gaining massive support among the freshmen, they confronted the warden, threatening to resign en masse if their demands were not met. Ultimately, the warden conceded, allowing their committee to stand. However, in Mandela's second year, he supported a student boycott, leading to his expulsion from Fort Hare. With his time at Fort Hare concluded, Mandela made the decision to move to Johannesburg and seek employment. This marked the beginning of his transition from a student challenging authority to a young man navigating the complexities of urban life. When Mandela arrived in Johannesburg in 1941, the city's vibrant atmosphere set the stage for his political awakening. Unbeknownst to him, this urban environment would be the catalyst for forming lifelong friendships dedicated to fighting against oppression. Starting as a night watchman in a gold mine, Mandela viewed the mine as a stark symbol of white oppression, where thousands of Africans toiled for the benefit of white owners in a massive capitalist enterprise. Despite his work in the mine, Mandela harbored a deeper aspiration, to become a lawyer. His cousin introduced him to Walter Sisulu, a pivotal figure in Mandela's life. Sisulu, who managed a real estate agency providing housing for Africans, played a crucial role in Mandela's journey. Securing Mandela a position as a clerk in a prominent law firm, Sisulu facilitated Mandela's pursuit of a law degree at the University of South Africa. Within the firm, Mandela connected with Gower Radebe, the only other black employee and a prominent member of the African National Congress, ANC. Founded in 1912, the ANC aimed to attain full citizenship for all Africans in South Africa. Gower saw the ANC as a beacon of hope for bringing about change, leading Mandela to join him in attending ANC meetings. Mandela's initiation into political activism occurred in 1943 during a bus boycott protesting rising fares. Instead of remaining a passive observer, Mandela actively participated in the boycott, marching alongside his fellow activists. This experience was both exhilarating and empowering, marking the beginning of Mandela's engagement in real political activism. During this early political phase, Mandela formed significant connections with fellow activists, including Tony O'Dowd, Harold Wolpe, and members of the Communist Party. These relationships would prove instrumental in Mandela's future struggle against apartheid. Walter Sisulu's residence in Johannesburg became a gathering place for ANC members and African intellectuals. Among them was Anton Lembebe, a prominent lawyer whose influence profoundly impacted Mandela. Lembebe asserted that Africa rightfully belonged to black people, calling for unity among African men from different tribes to reclaim their land. This reclaiming, according to Lembebe, would eradicate the Western ideals that had induced a sense of shame about their culture among many Africans, addressing a pervasive culture-wide inferiority complex. Mandela, along with Sisulu, Lembede, and others, approached Dr. Zuma, the head of the ANC at the time, proposing the establishment of an ANC Youth League to garner support. Although initially hesitant, Dr. Zuma agreed in 1944 to form the Youth League, recognizing the need to organize and mobilize the African masses. In 1948, a significant turning point occurred when Dr. Daniel Malan's National Party won the general election. Running on a platform of apartheid, meaning apartness, in Afrikaans, the National Party employed racist slogans like "Die Kafir op sy plek," the N-word, in his place. Upon gaining power, Malan swiftly implemented apartheid through various acts. The Group Areas Act, one of the first apartheid measures, mandated strict racial segregation. In response, the Youth League organized a national day of protest on June 26, 1950, urging all African workers to stay home. This protest, coupled with the Defiance Campaign, led to a significant surge in ANC membership, reaching 100,000 within a year. The success of these actions not only strengthened the movement but also deepened Mandela's commitment to the struggle against apartheid.
If you find value in our content, we'd appreciate your support through likes, shares, and subscriptions. Your comments are not only our guiding star but also the foundation of our progress. Thank you. Now, let's dive back into the review.
Following the National Day of Protest, the National Party, determined to quell resistance, enacted the Suppression of Communism Act and subsequently targeted Mandela. Arrested on June 30, 1950, for violating the act due to his involvement in planning and executing protests, Mandela faced government pursuit. The arrest triggered massive demonstrations on the streets of Johannesburg when Mandela and his co-accused appeared in court. On December 2 of the same year, they were convicted of statutory communism and sentenced to 9 months in prison. The sentence, however, was suspended for 2 years, allowing Mandela to continue his activism. In August 1952, Mandela established his law firm, focusing on assisting Africans facing legal challenges. The oppressive laws prohibited Africans from using white-only buses, drinking from white-only fountains, or walking through white-only doors. Mandela, appearing defiant in court, employed strategic tactics, such as embarrassing a white employer to secure the release of a black maid accused of theft. As the National Party's laws grew harsher, Mandela and Sisulu began considering violent resistance as a necessary response. Sisulu, attempting to secure weapons from China, faced controversy within the ANC when his plans were discovered, leading to heated debates on the use of violence within the organization. In the deteriorating situation, the government targeted Mandela and other ANC leaders. Mandela faced arrest at his home on December 5, 1956, charged with Hugovarad, Afrikaans for high treason. Anticipating a significant government move against the ANC, Mandela had long expected such an action. The government alleged that Mandela had orchestrated violent acts during the defiance campaign, leading to the arrest of nearly all the campaign's leaders. However, it became evident early on that the prosecution's case was feeble. The star witness, Solomon Nubes, serving a sentence for fraud, claimed he attended an ANC meeting where leaders decided to send Walter Sisulu to the Soviet Union for weapons. During Nubes's cross-examination, the defense exposed that he was neither an ANC member nor a university graduate, as he had claimed, dealing a severe blow to the prosecution. While the court case dragged on, turmoil unfolded outside. The severity of the situation became starkly apparent on March 26, 1960, with a tragic event in Sharpeville. Thousands of Africans gathered at a local police station, protesting the pass laws that mandated carrying passbooks when leaving designated neighborhoods. In a panic, the police opened fire without warning, resulting in at least 69 deaths, many shot in the back while attempting to flee. The aftermath saw over 50,000 people in Cape Town protesting the shootings, leading to riots and a government declaration of a state of emergency, suspending habeas corpus. Despite the turmoil, the court case took a positive turn. Despite the state presenting extensive material, the judge ruled the evidence of a violent plot was insufficient, resulting in the acquittal of all the accused. Following the trial, Mandela and his comrades recognized the urgency of shifting their struggle underground. Despite his release, Mandela understood that celebration was not in order. The ANC needed swift action and a change in tactics. The internal debate on violence within the ANC had persisted for years. In a clandestine executive meeting in 1961, Mandela argued that the state had left the ANC with no alternative. Despite the ANC leadership maintaining an official policy of non-violence, they granted Mandela the authority to establish a militant organization within the party. This newly formed militant wing of the ANC was named Umkhonto we Sizwe, translating to the Spear of the Nation, commonly referred to as the MK. The MK initially adopted sabotage as its primary strategy. Although Mandela had no prior experience firing a gun at someone, he delved into the study of guerrilla warfare, sabotage, and revolution. The Lilies Leaf Farm in Rivonia, a suburb of Johannesburg acquired by the movement, became a safe house and training facility for the MK. It was here that Mandela honed his shooting skills and learned about explosives. Opting for sabotage as the initial tactic due to its lower risk of injury and the need for fewer resources, the MK, under Mandela's leadership, detonated homemade bombs in December 1960 at various government buildings and power stations in Johannesburg. Simultaneously, they circulated a manifesto announcing the MK's emergence. The government, taken by surprise, intensified its efforts in response, preparing for reprisals against the MK. As the intensity of the struggle grew, the government became increasingly determined to apprehend Mandela, who had evolved into an iconic figure in the movement. Their pursuit finally succeeded on August 5, 1962, when Mandela was captured on his way back to Lilies Leaf Farm after a secret MK meeting. Subsequently, he was taken to prison, where he was joined by Sisulu, who had also been arrested. During Mandela's initial court appearance, He, his wife, and many spectators adorned leopard skin karosses, traditional Xhosa attire. In his opening statement, Mandela declared his intention to place the government on trial, expressing his lack of moral obligation to laws passed by a parliament in which he had no voting rights. Mandela recounted instances where the government had rejected the ANC's efforts to address their issues through official channels, leaving the ANC with no recourse but to turn to violence. The prosecution's primary evidence was a 6-page action plan seized from Lily's Leaf Farm, directly implicating Mandela and others in the planning of the MK. The document seemingly ensured their guilt. The trial gained widespread international attention, and excerpts from Mandela's speech on the day of the verdict were published in numerous newspapers. Vigils were organized in cities worldwide. On June 12, 1964, Mandela was convicted on all charges, but international pressure on South Africa played a crucial role in sparing his life. UN experts recommended amnesty for all anti-apartheid activists, and while the charges against Mandela typically carried the death penalty, he received a life sentence instead. Following the trial, Mandela was confined to Robben Island, where he would spend the next 2 decades of his life. Daily life on Robben Island was harsh, with prisoners required to crush volleyball-sized stones into gravel with small hammers in scorching heat. Mandela belonged to the most tightly controlled class of prisoners, granted only 1 visitor and 1 letter every 6 months. Correspondence was heavily censored, leaving Mandela with limited access to letters from his wife, Winnie. Solitary confinement, often imposed for minor infractions like failing to stand when a guard entered, was the harshest aspect of prison life. The prison aimed to break prisoners emotionally, but they resisted to maintain their spirits. Mandela, for instance, challenged the decision to provide shorts to all prisoners except Indians, deeming it indecent for an African man. After a 2-week protest, the guards conceded, securing a small but significant victory. Prisoners faced additional challenges, such as limited access to books and magazines, with anything related to politics or news strictly forbidden. Exploiting the guards' lack of intelligence, one prisoner obtained a copy of The Economist by misleadingly presenting it as an economics-related publication. In 1966, prisoners initiated a hunger strike to protest living conditions, eventually prompting the guards to join. Recognizing the strike's impact, prison authorities acquiesced to the prisoners' demands. The contagious spirit of rebellion had triumphed. Over time, the guards at Robben Island became less stringent with the prisoners, yet the external situation continued to deteriorate. Despite the challenges, there were glimmers of hope. In the 1970s, mass protests surged across Africa, and a new generation of more militant freedom fighters emerged. Mandela and his fellow prisoners had limited access to news but learned of a significant uprising in 1976. In Soweto, Johannesburg, 15,000 schoolchildren gathered to protest a law mandating that schools teach half of their courses in Afrikaans, a language most African children did not want to learn. The police, once again, opened fire on the crowd, resulting in casualties, including 13-year-old Hector Peterson. The incident triggered widespread riots and protests throughout the country. The new generation of South African freedom fighters was characterized by increased aggression and militancy. Those convicted and sent to Robben Island considered Mandela and the other Rivonia prisoners as moderates. Many belonged to the Black consciousness movement, advocating for the black man to overcome feelings of inferiority to whites as a means of liberation. While Mandela admired their militancy, he found their exclusive focus on blackness immature. The uprisings in South Africa during the late 1970s received extensive coverage from the international media, sparking global outrage against apartheid. Free Mandela campaigns and events proliferated worldwide. In 1980, the Johannesburg Saturday Post featured a story with the headline, "Free Mandela," accompanied by a petition for readers to sign. The article ignited a national debate on Mandela's release. By the early 1980s, the conflict in South Africa was escalating, marked by increasing bloodshed and violence. The situation appeared to be spiraling out of control, posing a threat to society as a whole. In 1981, the South African Defence Force conducted a raid on the ANC's offices in Maputo, Mozambique, resulting in 13 fatalities. Responding to this aggression, the MK, having become more militant, retaliated in May 1983 by detonating a car bomb outside a military facility in Pretoria, causing the death of 19 individuals. Recognizing the escalating chaos, Mandela understood the necessity of negotiations to address the crisis. Despite the ANC's previous stance against negotiating with the racist government, Mandela realized the imperative for dialogue. In 1986, following another declaration of a state of emergency by the government, Mandela sought a meeting with Kobe Coetsee, the Minister of Defense. Surprisingly, the request was granted, and Mandela met with Coetsee at the minister's private home in Cape Town. During this meeting, Coetsee inquired about the conditions that could dissuade the ANC from resorting to violent tactics, marking the initial step towards negotiations. In May 1988, Mandela, along with a committee of state officials, commenced a series of secret meetings. By December of the following year, Mandela met with the new president, F.W. de Klerk, who was committed to fostering peace and attentively listened to Mandela's perspective. In a significant announcement in February 1990, de Klerk declared the lifting of the ban on the ANC, which had been technically illegal but garnered widespread support. Additionally, de Klerk agreed to release all political prisoners who had been incarcerated for nonviolent activities. On the same day, de Klerk informed Mandela that he would be released from prison. Nelson Mandela's release on February 11, 1990, marked a significant moment in the struggle for freedom in South Africa, although the journey toward true liberation was far from over. Mandela had been housed in a low-security prison near Cape Town since 1988, where he had his own living quarters, serving as a transitional space between confinement and freedom. On the day of his release, Mandela, initially scheduled to be driven to the front gate, walked the final stretch at the request of a television presenter. Accompanied by his wife, he raised his fist, eliciting cheers from the enthusiastic crowd. Later, addressing a massive gathering from a City Hall balcony, Mandela energized the crowd with the call and response of, "Amandla, power," and "Nawathu, to us." In the subsequent days, Mandela affirmed his commitment to the ANC's cause, expressing readiness to align with the organization's decisions. He emphasized the compatibility of supporting the ANC's militant struggle while engaging in negotiations for peace. Despite this commitment, tensions persisted between the government and the ANC. In December 1992, the ANC executives initiated secret bilateral talks with the government. The first agreement stipulated that parties earning over 5% in the general election should have proportional representation in the cabinet. This decision meant the ANC would collaborate with the National Party, sparking controversy within the ANC. The historic non-racialized election on April 27, 1994, marked a turning point in South Africa. The ANC secured 62.6% of the votes, signaling a transformative moment in the nation's history. Shortly before this landmark event, Mandela was honored with the Nobel Peace Prize for his tireless efforts in the pursuit of justice and equality. Nelson Mandela's life was a testament to unwavering dedication and resilience in the face of immense challenges. Throughout his journey, marked by persecution and violence, Mandela steadfastly adhered to his principles. His commitment to the anti-apartheid movement earned him the role of a torchbearer, illuminating the path toward a free and democratic South Africa. Mandela's legacy extends far beyond his personal struggles, symbolizing the triumph of justice, equality, and the human spirit over oppression. Welcome back. Grateful for your return to our Knowledge Hub. Dive into inspiring book summaries with actionable insights. Surprisingly, 80% of our listeners haven't engaged yet. I sincerely ask you to like, share, and subscribe, helping us reach a broader audience and grow the channel. Your comments are a North Star, guiding us in crafting valuable content. Thank you.